Hello, you're watching Ellie from Elementary Paper Crafting. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator here in the UK. Have you ever had that feeling, that last minute feeling, oh my goodness, I forgot to make so-and-so a Christmas card? Well, I forgot to make my son one, and he's not really that bothered about cards, but, I did mention, did he want a Christmas card? And he said, yes, he did. So here I am, sort of like looking at pieces of paper and trying to decide what to do. And I've cut a lot of this out because obviously there were a lot of moments where I was sat thinking about things. But anyway, let me show you what I did. So this is me sorting through some papers that I thought I probably would like to choose from. I wanted it to be really masculine looking. Now, I thought I would maybe use that Eden's Garden, but then I thought, no, I'm going to go for the Peaceful Place. I liked the whites and the greys and little bits of black in it. And because my son loves green, I'm now looking for a piece of green card. I did think I'd use Evening Evergreen at the beginning, but I decided to get out all the cardstock and just check. But as you can see, I ended up with an Evening Evergreen. I'm now just placing the pieces I found that I thought would be good. And yeah, thumbs up there, it's going to be Evening Evergreen. So I bring in a piece of white cardstock, which I very quickly make into an A5 piece of card. And now I'm just making my final decision on which of those papers I'm going to use. So in comes those trees. I do love the trees, but I decided that it might be too many trees because I've got two lots of trees at the top. I need to make plain at the bottom. I've made my decision. We're going with this. The next thing is to cut these down into sizes that will fit onto the card. So I know my cardstock is 8¼ inches wide. So I want to make the card mat, this evergreen, 8 inches wide. And then I measured the paper and that was about 2 inches. So I've made this 8 by 2¼ I think, and the paper is 7¾ by 2. So now I'm just popping my other bits of paper on. I'm messing about with it a bit and thinking, yeah, that looks nice. The big trees look like they're in the foreground, and if I just take off the big tree there and leave the smaller ones, they look as if they're in the background further away. And here I come again, I'm bringing the card back in. Always do this all the time, keep bringing the card back in. I decide I can lose some sky there, give it another look and decide that that's kind of what I'm looking for. So now I take the bottom off. And I'm quite pleased with that now. So I bring in that large piece and just thinking about it, does it need trimming? So I just check the measurement and think that I'm going to take a little bit off the bottom there. It will probably fit better. Now I'm just making sure that it actually is a measurement that is sort of spot on an inch mark, which makes it easier to cut my Evening Evergreen mat now. So I'm cutting this 1/4 inch bigger than my paper. So let's check that out, and yeah, it fits. Now at this point I thought, if I gut that piece of card, will I be able to make use of the centerpiece on this other piece of DSP? So I'm thinking, well, I'm going to gut it anyway, so let's see what happens. So here's my usual method where I bring it into the 1/2 inch mark and then cut along to 1/2 inch from the bottom. I stop, turn without moving my cutting blade, and it makes it really easy to do this. So that fits beautifully, and now the moment of truth, and wiggling around a bit. Yes, I've got 1/8 inch either side. Yes, that's a thumbs up. So all I've got to do now is make sure I cut the bottom as well the right length. Now that's I think it measured just over 3 inches, so, or 3 inches. Excuse me. So I just went round and made it 3 inches square, and I made this 3 1/4, which was already 3 1/4 on one side. So I'm happy with that. I'm not going to bother to gut that. It's a very small piece. I can't really see me needing a piece of green that small. So now I go ahead, I bring in my silicone mat there, and I glue all around the sides of my DSP and fit it to that mat. So the silicone mat's there to stop any bits of glue going onto the paper I used to cover my stamp and piercing mat. So on comes this long piece of card now. Mat that onto the green. And the good thing about this wet glue is that you can just sort of move it around a little bit to get your borders nice and even. Use my bone folder there on its side to smooth out my designer series paper and make sure that the glue spreads evenly across the whole surface. You don't want to see the outline of the glue once it's stuck down. So by doing that, I make sure there's a very thin layer all over the DSP, so it's not obvious. And then again, I just use my bone folder on its side. I find is really lovely, really helpful. And there's my 3 pieces of designer series paper, all mounted up and ready. So it all goes back on the card again, just to make sure that I'm happy with what I'm doing. And yes, I am. So glue on the bottom part here again. I always knew that was going on the bottom right from the beginning. Now always open up your card and have it flat. It makes it much easier when you're trying to line things up. If the card's not flat and it's at an angle, you've got less chance of getting your layers on nice and straight. So I always make particularly make sure I go all around the edges after I've glued, because there's nothing worse than sending somebody a card and the edges of your mats coming off, sticking up, that it looks unprofessional. So I do make sure that I go round with that glue right on the edges, and I go all the way around. I make sure I press it down really well so that nothing's going to come adrift. And then I'm just going to put that last one down now, and just, it's a little bit warped from the glue, and I just use my bone folder then to sort of straighten it up, make it flatter to go on the card. And on it goes there. And I'm very pleased with it at this stage. Now I know that it looks as if those mats are a dark grey, but they're not. They are Evening Evergreen. I brought in the Merriest Moments stamp set, and I've picked out the greeting, Together is the, oh, what's it called now? Together is the merriest place to be. So because I'm going to use Evening Evergreen, a dark ink, I decided to bring in my Stamparatus, because you can get a better stamping with this because you can overstamp. Now I just made sure that that cardstock was down really firmly, because when you stamp and pull it up, sometimes the card comes with it, and I didn't want that to happen because I might need to stamp twice with a dark colour. So I do my hands, and then I bring in my homemade Chucky just to give that little bit of extra pressure. Out comes the stamp. Now actually it's a really good image, but I decided to go with another layer of the Evening Evergreen because I thought it would look much better. I'm really pleased with that. It's come out beautifully crisp and dark, and believe me, it is Evening Evergreen. Now I come in with my Pearlized Enamel Effects Basics in the black, which actually is a really dark sort of gunmetal grey, and it goes beautifully with this designer series paper. And I'm choosing just to use it to make 3 little pearls at the top left hand corner of the piece I used to put the greeting on, and then I'm going to repeat that on the bottom right hand corner to balance it up. These pearls are absolutely fantastic. I mean, before I'd even started using them on the right hand side, the left hand side was already formed into a pearl shape. And just to make doubly sure, I get my thumb underneath and just flick it. It just helps to level it off and create that lovely rounded shape. So that's my card for today, a nice masculine Christmas card for my son. And he loves Christmas trees, so I'm sure this will go down well. If you've liked today's video, I'd really appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up so that everyone knows you like it. If you're not subscribed, I'd really appreciate it if you did that as well. And you'll find in the description box below a link to my online store where you can purchase anything I've used today. Bye bye.